Broadcast is back, baby.
Moscow was a tough place to study, according to the document you sent me. Why?
Two things. First of all, naturally, where I was in my life when I went there, because I was an 18-year-old guy who just finished school, and I went to a completely different town. Even though culturally it's not that far, like growing up in Kazakhstan, you can very easily navigate yourself within the Russian culture, whether you like it or not. And the study was still very fresh. It appeared 1 year before I applied there, so it was still a bit experimental. And because it was still a bit experimental, there were things like graphic design, which aren't really a part of game design, but they were merged together, so that if the whole game design thing is not going to work out, the students by the end of the program still have the graphic design skills to fall back on in life. So just the fact that this combination by itself created quite a bit of pressure. It's just a lot of stuff to learn, a lot of stuff to do. Then there was an element of competition in the post-Soviet space. I think that was the first bachelor's in game design that wasn't focused on just game programming. So there was quite a bit of competition there. You have people coming from all over Russia, from other republics. There was another Kazakh guy in there. We had a Mongolian guy, and many, many others. I don't exactly remember. We had people from Estonia, I think, also. So when you have all those people who want to do game design, but there is no place to do game design back at home or anywhere close, and Europe is quite far away, and America is ridiculously expensive, all of those people went to Moscow, and all of those people had a chip on their shoulder. All of those people wanted to prove something. All of those people were going to work very hard.
But why is that a problem? I mean,
because we are compared at the end of every quarter, at least in the
compared.
Yeah, like, well, no. They say it wasn't like, yeah, we're not comparing you too much, but at the end of every quarter, we presented the work that we've done, game design related work, like some kind of project that we've been working on, in a room full of students and the teaching staff, and we would go alphabetically, and we present it, and we kind of defend our project, and everybody does that. So what essentially happens is you see the projects before and after you. So naturally, you compare yourself to everybody else.
But that's more an internal dialogue, right? It's not something that the university is doing.
No, university is very specifically making it that way, because there is an audience with, like, I don't know, 60, 70 people. There was a crammed audience that everybody has to go to. It's mandatory. Mm-hmm. So you can't just like appear there for just your project. Just come in there, defend your project, and then leave. You kind of have to stay there and watch everything else. And that was an intentional decision.
But I would say that's quite standard, right? Don't you need to do that in every university when they're presenting the projects?
When you do it so often, you see yourself kind of falling behind other people, because some people are really good at what they do. You can say, hey, look, I made this little board game and I tested it a few times. It was very difficult. And the very next person after you is like, I already published my game and earned money for it. And I used that money to pay this artist. And now I'm working on a sequel. And everyone's like, and then you're sitting there like, damn it.
Okay, so during university, you clearly had those other teams that were like pushing all the way and receiving more credits for
no,
right?
individual people. We didn't work in teams.
What?
Yeah, when you were making a game, we didn't have a separate department for programming. We didn't have separate design or separate art. We had everything at once.
Sam, that's not how games are made.
That's how indie games are made. And if you are tough enough to survive in the indie sector, you can find a way you can find an easier job in the studio.
I understand this train of thought, but if you're an indie developer who do not know how to work in a group, you're dead.
Well, that is something that they consider we can figure out on our own. Although maybe these days the program is different. Again, things have been shuffled and reshuffled and changed quite often back in those days. I think they are still being reshuffled every now and again. But it was a very fresh program. There was still like misunderstandings between the teaching staff that was game design and teaching staff that isn't game design. And it's a new university program. They still figure things out at the time.
Makes sense. You told me that it was like the first time ever they were teaching that.
Not the very first time, but the very first time was like a year before me. So
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. It's normal. So you moved to Moscow. So for how long did you study there in Moscow?
2 years.
2 years, okay. And this was enough to finish the game design
No.
bachelor?
I left before finishing for other reasons. Remember, I previously told you that my main objective was to build my life in Europe.
Yes.
Yeah, that never went away. The idea was that I finish my study in Russia and then I go for a master's degree somewhere in Europe. But seeing how things have been working out in Russia, it was 2018 and 2019. It was there was quite a bit of protest activity in the city itself, and a lot of things. Russia was already getting itself into some sort of political issue here and there. Plus, the conflict in Ukraine was still very much going on. And you live there, you talk to people, and you just see that most people were completely fine with what was happening. Most people didn't really give a shit. And then there was, I think the specific point when I decided that I need to go away was, I think Russians just opened fire on some places in Syria. I don't remember what exactly did they do, but it was bad enough for UN Security Council to convene after that. And I was becoming more and more politicized in Moscow because I was faced with all of those other people spewing opinions or propaganda, or just having other opinions, and it forced me to kind of ask myself, what do I believe in? What do I do? So naturally, I decided to actually watch that UN Security Council translation. And I just saw the Russians just blatantly denying truth, just clowning, and just openly lying to the rest of the world in the United Nations. And I just figured, along with a lot of other things, I'm like, this society is not healthy. I am not going to build my life here. I never planned to, but now I was like, I'm wasting my time here. And my parents also saw that, and specifically my mother has gotten consent. So it was a done deal.
Watch full episodes of the Brewcast on the main YouTube channel, youtube.com/@brewfrasca.